Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Scarves and Spikes. Tyler and Henry with y'all here tonight as we wrap up the international break, get ready to dive into another match versus the Columbus Crew. And
Whoa, hold on. Columbus Crew.
yeah,
I thought we were talking about Colombia, no?
Why don't you go and enlighten everybody as to the crap show that happened in CONMEBOL recently?
Okay. Well, look, guys. So if you didn't know, last night, Tuesday night, was the final match day of CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers, right? And pretty much all the direct qualification spots were secured. Colombia was one of them after their win over Bolivia on, I believe, Thursday. It was 3-0 win over Bolivia. And so Colombia was good. Argentina, Ecuador, Uruguay, Paraguay, which we're about to talk about in a little bit, are all through. But the final match day was to determine who would go for the play-in spot in CONMEBOL. There's one play-in spot as a 7th spot, and it was contested between Venezuela, where our dear old Ronald Hernandez, Joseph Martinez, they play, a few other MLS players, and Bolivia, where, friend of Atlanta United, Efrain Morales, he's actually starting for the Bolivian national team, which is really, really cool. But yeah, basically, Venezuela was a point ahead of Bolivia and just needed for Bolivia not to win. And for them, as long as Bolivia didn't win, Venezuela was through. If Bolivia did win or any other result, Venezuela had to win. And so they were going up against Colombia, which that's always a big rivalry. It's a big deal. And in the lead up, there's all these memes, right? Of, hey, Colombia, would you please let us win so that we can go to our first World Cup and all the cutesy things, and we'll let you have the arepa. And haha, you can't do that because the arepa's ours anyways. But anyway, we came into the game. 2 minutes in, Venezuela scores because apparently we have Loris Karius in goal. Kevin Muir. and he just lets in a weird goal, and then Colombia strikes back. But then Venezuela score immediately after, and it's like, oh, I'm watching Atlanta United again, where they score and then they immediately concede after. And then, out of the woodwork, Luis Suarez. No, not that Luis Suarez. Not the bite guy. We're talking about Colombian Luis Suarez. Comes in and scores 4 freaking goals. This guy had, I think, 5 previous caps for the national team, had never scored, and he scored his first 4 goals in one game. A game where Colombia was already qualified. Colombia didn't really care about the result, but it was about sending a message that we were not going to let Venezuela qualify.
Royally pissed off every Venezuelan.
Oh, yeah. And spoiler alert, Bolivia actually won. They always win in their home because they play on a freaking mountain, 3,000 yards in the air. But yeah, they won off a penalty, a kind of dodgy penalty, by the way. That's also a little bit of controversy because I'm not sure it was a penalty, but they beat Brazil. And so Bolivia will be going on to play the World Cup play-in game whenever that is held. And yeah, they destroyed the Venezuelan dream of going to their first World Cup. So that was a fun little controversy. And
yeah,
but yeah, the bit that I was doing here was I was hoping we could talk about the national teams and not Atlanta United, but this is an Atlanta United podcast, so I guess
well, yeah, but we can always sprinkle some things in. We do have a lot of national team stuff to talk about. I will say that game did end. It was 6-3, right?
6-3. It was a fun game. I don't just say that because Colombia won, but I mean, how many games do you watch that have 9 goals?
Yeah, that's all. That's always a good one. That's always fun, and it literally epitomizes CONMEBOL, I think, to a T. So. A couple things as we get ready to kind of dive into what Atlanta United players have done during the international break. And I'll throw this out there a couple times throughout the show. But one, make sure, if you haven't already, to go enter our giveaway. We're giving away some copies of EAFC, the new one, in a couple of weeks when it comes out. Go onto our socials. You'll see it. It's the post there. Retweet it. That's got all the instructions. But remember, Patreon members get extra entries to all of our giveaways. So if you're not a part of Patreon, go to patreon.com/scarves and spikes. That gets you into, at minimum, get you into our Discord, and our watch alongs. And then, of course, there are tiers as well that get you other kinds of exclusive content, training ground updates, exclusive interviews that we do. Henry did one recently with Javier Perez, the director of methodology at Atlanta United, which kind of carried over into some neat stuff that we got to see this past weekend between Atlanta United 2 and the Belize international team, which we'll get to a little bit later. So yeah, patreon.com/scarves and spikes. Go hop in there. And for the Columbus match this weekend, we are going to be at the Signia again at the Nest on 4 Bar doing our live show. So come hang out with us. It'll be 2 hours before kickoff, so 5:30. It'll go on for about an hour, but come hang out, grab a drink, chill with us. We let people on the mic, so you can get up there and give your thoughts about the state of Atlanta or whatever you want to talk about for a couple minutes within reason. But yeah, 5:30. Y'all come hang out with us. It'll be a good time. That's the Nest on 4 Bar at the Signia Hotel, the giant glass building next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, besides that, I think that covers everything we have going on. So it's been a couple weeks, and during this time, 9 Atlanta United players were on international duty. The only team that had more than Atlanta was, in fact, San Diego, who had 10. Though San Diego, I think, had 1 more or 2 more like youth national team players. So, that being said, though, Henry, take us away. Where do we start? Who do you want to start with? Is it Miggy?
Yeah, let's start with Miggy because I think his is probably the most significant one so far. So yeah, really quickly, Miguel Almirón started and played 90 minutes in a scoreless draw against Ecuador in World Cup qualifying. It was their penultimate match, but that draw actually was enough for them to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, next year's World Cup. It's their first World Cup appearance since 2010. And guess who was managing the Paraguay national team back then?
Who?
A guy by the name of Gerardo Tata Martino. And by the way, that is considered to be the most successful era of Paraguay's national team. They made, I think, the quarterfinals in, was that 2010 edition? I think the 2010 edition, they made the quarterfinal.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's their best ever World Cup, and Tata was a part of that. And that's actually, quick little sidebar here. That is one of kind of the reasons for, Miggy kind of being attracted to this Tata Martino project in Atlanta back in 2017. So a little factoid for you, how life is it's a small world, but
especially in the soccer world.
Especially the soccer world. So that's the first result. Next, Alexei Miranchuk started, played, and scored in a 4-1 friendly win over Qatar with Russia. His twin brother, Anton, also started, by the way. So you had Miranchuk times 2, which I already can't deal with one Miranchuk, so I don't know how they deal with 2 of them. But they did it, and ours scored. So good for you, Alexei. Next up, we got Bartek Slisz. He started both of Poland's World Cup qualifying matches in UEFA, including a 1-1 draw against Netherlands and a 3-1 win over Finland. The Eagles, as they're called, they're looking for their 3rd straight World Cup appearance. Next up, we got Sabatime Lobjanidze. He was an unused sub in the 3-2 defeat to Turkey, and then played the last 11 minutes of Georgia's 3-0 win over Bulgaria in their World Cup qualifying matches. If they make it this time around, it would be Georgia's very first World Cup. So huge moment for him to be a part of if they can make it happen. Obviously, we'll be wishing them all the best there. Jaden Hibbert was with the Canadian men's national team. He was on the bench both games against Romania and Wales. He was a sub. to, I think the first game was Crepeau, and then the second one was St. Clair.
Yep.
Those are two tough guys to get in front of on the depth chart. Those are two that, MLS mainstays for the past few years that have proved themselves. And even though, Jaden Hibbert has shown some potential recently, it's always going to be, you give the benefit of the doubt to your guys, right, with a little bit more experience. But Jaden Hibbert can definitely work up there and make it. Certainly, Jesse Marsh has expressed how much he sees his Jaden Hibbert's potential. So moving
that experience is invaluable for him. Forget about playing in the games, but just being in the camp, especially with those kind of goalkeepers, that's amazing for Jaden. So
for sure, and that's the thing, right? With goalkeepers, it's probably one of the hardest positions to really become big in, because you only really have one goalkeeper, and you hardly sub them out, because in games where your subs are counted, right, you only really do it if it's an absolute like break glass in case of emergency. So it's hard to give young goalkeepers minutes because you usually go with your more experienced folks. But I'm sure that eventually down the line, Hibbert's going to get his chance with the Canadian men's national team. I mean, why else would Jesse Marsh bring him into this camp? So we'll see. He'll obviously be also motivated with the World Cup coming up. He'll want to be in that squad, even if he doesn't play in the World Cup. Just being in the World Cup squad is a massive deal for a player, especially as young as him. Ronald Hernandez was not in either match day squad for Venezuela. They lost their last two games, 3-0 to Argentina, and then the 6-3 battering by the hands of you boys. Sorry, guys. And Bruno, yes, Henry rubbing it to all the Venezuela fans. Pan con chicharrón is better than arepas. We'll see. I think arepas are goated. Like, they're top tier for me. Definitely one of the best breakfast items of all time. But I see your point, Bruno. And then we had 3 youth national team call-ups. Dominic Chanqui was with the U19 national team. We don't really know how they did. Cooper Sanchez was, I believe, with the U17s, and they suffered an 8-2 loss to the Netherlands, which is not great. And then Luke Brennan was with the US U20s, coached by one Rob Valentino, and they played 2 games. Well, I cannot speak. Sorry, had a stroke there.
Hey, we're getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, we're getting back from the international break, aren't we?
Yes.
But they had 2 games against Morocco. I believe the first one was a 4-1 win, and then the second one was a 0-0 draw. And that concludes our international break roundup for Atlanta United. Everybody should be back by tomorrow's training session. I'll be there either way to let y'all know. But from yesterday's training session, a few folks had already made it back. I saw Sleesh. I saw Moranchuk. And then we'll probably get the rest of the folks in by tomorrow. I know Miggy will be back by tomorrow. He's supposed to speak. But yeah, as always, y'all follow me on Twitter, and I'll give you all the latest from the training ground.
Yes, indeed. Much like how this past Saturday, here's the thing, and I know Sydney, he's been really pushing this a lot lately. If you're not following us, obviously, I hope you're following Scarves and Spikes on Twitter. But a lot of times what we'll do, because this is very much a divide and conquer kind of business, we'll be posting stuff from our accounts and then retweeting it from, or re-Xing, whatever we do now, from I'm not going to say what Sydney said the other day. But we'll repost it from the Scarves and Spikes account. And so if you're following Scarves and Spikes, you should be getting all the updates anyway. But if you're not following us as well, be sure to go do that. I'm ATL Pilgrim. Henry is H. Higuita.
No, H.A. Higuita.
I knew I was getting yours.
You're missing a letter. It's fine.
Yeah, you're good. You got H.A. Higuita.
Yep.
Tommy's Tommy ATL 96, and Sydney's is SH Wrights. So, and yes. So anyway, carry on.
Yeah, follow all of us for all the coverage that we give. We give a lot of varied coverage between, not just this show, but also articles that we write, exclusive content and stuff like that. So just be sure to follow all of us, and especially for our takes and banter. You got to love that.
Yes, always. Dan said, and then a goalkeeper can become good and then become Onana. On the goalkeeper conversation.
Oh yeah. Where did Onana go again? He went to another club, and I just completely forgot which one it was.
I had no idea. You look that up. I'll filibuster for a second. Now I'll address Andrew's comment on Facebook. He said, "Will Pep Guardiola be the best manager for Atlanta United for next season? We need that Pep in our step."
I love the pun. I have to appreciate the pun, by the way.
Yeah. Take the over under. Figure out which one we're gonna use on Henry's dad jokes for the rest of this show. But no, Andrew, I think here's the thing. Dyla, unless just things tank even worse than they already have this season, Dyla will be here next year with very, very, very short leash. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is a results-based business. We know this. There absolutely is an argument that he could have been or should have been fired already. And I don't blame anybody for thinking that. But I mean, look, Pep, when he leaves Man City, he's taking another sabbatical, I'm sure. But there are a lot of, we kind of talked about it last week, but there are a handful of probably not going to happen, but would be cool if you did, coaches out there. So you never know. But I mean, at the end of the day, look, I want whoever it is, whether it's Ronnie Dyla now going into next year, whoever it is, I want them to be successful. I just want to see the team win again. That's all I care about.
I'm with you, man. I think everyone at this point. But if you're looking for new managers, how about one Nuno Espirito Santo, right? Recently fired from Nottingham Forest for checks notes, getting them to Europa League.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision. Apparently, some of the reports are that, he didn't necessarily agree with the owner, which as an owner, I just don't see how you don't agree with a manager who's improved your team vastly. I mean, ever since he took over, he's basically doubled the points that they've gotten in seasons past. And so we'll see what happens. This is a very interesting move for them. But
I think owners should just hire the person and then let it go.
Yeah.
Take a step back and just let them do their thing.
For sure. For sure. It's weird. Some owners are like completely hands off. Yep. And then some are like, no, I need to be involved in everything. And even, you need to get my approval to sign players and stuff like that. And that just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Like if you want to be like the helicopter parent and you just want to hover to try to learn more about it, cool. That's fine. But if you're going to be the helicopter parent, with the last name Tepper or Levy or somebody like that, that just wants to be in control of every single thing, then dude, get out, man. You're in the wrong business. You're in the wrong, but you know nothing about football. Nothing. So just stay in your lane. Anyway, I don't want to get off.
Levy was fired.
Well, finally, yeah, but that's the thing.
It took long enough.
But he also acted like the owner. Anyway, that's a whole different. That's like another podcast topic.
Oh yeah.
Dan said he thinks
Trabzonspor. Yeah, yeah. I looked it up. It is Trabzonspor, which I think one of our followers and patrons is a Trabzonspor fan. So
yeah,
there you go. You're gonna get one of the best keepers in the world, right?
Surprised he's not here. Where's he at?
What is that?
I said, where is Omar?
I don't know. He's usually already in. He's late. We'll have to contact him. Yeah. Someone reach out to Omar. Make sure he's on for this. This is his moment. This is his time to shine.
This was it.
Nerd out on Trabzonspor for us in the chat. But anyway, before we actually move on to the Atlanta United segment of things, I do want to bring something up that came up in the past few days. I think it was in the past 24 hours that it emerged, the reports that the USMNT will have a friendly in Atlanta against Portugal and one Cristiano Ronaldo. It will
Yep.
be the second time that the U.S. men's national team play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium after last year's Copa America with the 2-1 loss to Panama. But yeah, this is going to be literally months before the World Cup. It's going to be prep for both of these teams, like final preparations for both of these national teams as they prepare to go into the tournament. So it's going to be really, really exciting. And I think it's long overdue for them to have a friendly here in Atlanta. I mean,
100%.
you got the training ground that's going up. This is going to be the literal headquarters
Yeah,
of the
this is the
U.S. men's
backyard of the
national
training.
team. Exactly. And it's a beautiful stadium. And for those of you who are asking, yes, this match will be played on grass, as we have said before. The plan is for natural grass to be installed in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in January before the start of the Atlanta United season. That same grass will remain all the way through the World Cup. Once the World Cup ends, that grass gets taken down, and we will be back to the turf that we know and love. So, yes, all of that will be played on grass, which is fabulous. And also, we're going to see some really fun soccer. Even if the U.S. men's national team isn't great, we're going to see some fun soccer and some great players, which I'm excited about.
And on the grass topic, because we've been reporting this for a while, and whether it's on here or on the website or in Discord or whatever /Patreon, and it always seems like somebody pops up and they're like, "What about grass?" And yeah, the way that they're doing the grass, like Henry said, it's going to be long term. So it's actually going to be fully installed. And I always use this example because it's essentially the same exact system, but the Allianz in Munich has the grow lights, has, the full, like, now they don't need this here, but they have like the heated system that because obviously Munich winters are much colder than Georgia. Plus this one has a roof, that one doesn't, but it's going to be fully grown grass. And so they're going to be like taking care of it as if this were like a fully outdoor venue. Grow lights will be moved in. So yeah, Atlanta United will be playing on grass for essentially what equates to most of the season next year. And there is technically a world where the Falcons would play on a little bit of grass. There are scenarios where that could happen in the very beginning of the year. It's very unlikely, but it's possible. And then preseason. No, it wouldn't be preseason. Carry on. That part wouldn't happen. But the very beginning of January, it could happen. So anyway.
There are scenarios where the Falcons could play on grass. There are also scenarios for Atlanta United being eliminated from the playoffs this weekend. Yeah, the writing's on the wall. It's been there for a while, but now it seems very, very, very close. Elimination scenarios. Very simple. If Atlanta does not win this weekend against Columbus, they are out. Also, if Chicago beats NYCFC, then they would be too far for Atlanta to catch. They are currently in the 9th spot, and Atlanta would be eliminated.
And these are exclusive. These are exclusive. So like either if they lose, they're out. If they draw, they're out.
Yeah.
And if Chicago wins, no matter what.
No matter what. Exactly. That trumps everything.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh, it doesn't happen. It can't happen this week, but if between this weekend and the end of the season, Red Bulls put together 4 points from their last 6 games, Atlanta will also be eliminated from the playoffs. It's happening, guys. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just, if you were holding on to any hope, you can let go. The season has gone down the toilet. We've known this for a while. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. And I think a lot of us have kind of accepted it at this point, but it would take a genuine miracle to prevent Chicago from getting 3 points from its last 6 games and or New York Red Bulls from doing the same in their last 6. So yeah, it's just brutal, Tyler.
It is rough. And that's the thing, Atlanta's dug themselves into a hole that you really can't get out of, barring, like you said, a miracle. So we're going to talk about the match. Yes, Bruno, there is a chance. There is a chance. But We're going to get into it with Calen Carr here in a few, but before we do that, I wanted to highlight something that happened at the training ground this past weekend that we covered, which was Atlanta United 2. And obviously the twos have maybe drawn a lot more interest this year, thankfully, because we cover them, we report them, like we try to tell you guys as much as we can about the twos, the academy. Gray, the walking encyclopedia of academy and twos knowledge, is putting articles up, talking about Patreon and the exclusives there. Tommy had a chat with him that kind of went over a lot of the academy, the products, pipeline, everything else. So go check that out if you haven't already. That was a week or two ago. But there's tons of talent coming up through this side, and the twos this past weekend played Belize. And at first thought, if you don't know, you'd be like, why did they play the Belize national team? At the training ground. And it was because, if you don't know, the Belize is the Caribbean, the official Caribbean travel sponsor of Atlanta United. So it kind of made sense for this to happen at some point. So you're in an international break. Belize is already playing. They're a team on the up, which is really cool. Now, I mean, this is still a small team. This is still a very small island, right, in the Caribbean, or a small country in the Caribbean. Ultimately, like it's a friendly, but it's a good gauge of where Belize wants to be. And so they came up Saturday and kicked off about 10 o'clock in the morning against the twos. I've got an article that kind of covers a lot of it over on scarpsandspikes.com. But I mean, we got to see a first half that was almost exclusively academy products. And you had kind of two anchor points in the lineup in the first half. Again, being a friendly, there was lots of subs and everything else that happened. But you had Javier Armas, who was kind of playing a little deeper than he typically does. And then Rodrigo Neri was kind of playing as like a winger. And this is all under Jose Silva's new system. So this is kind of like the Cliffs Notes version of how the twos have kind of been going over the past few months. Steve Cook, who had been the coach for the past year and a half, he left to go up to Lexington a couple months ago. Jose Silva took over, and Jose Silva has immediately put his stamp on this team. So they play Belize, start off first 45, again, mostly academy products. You've got Javier Armas on the pitch. You've got Rodrigo Neri. So there's your two veterans, and the rest are a handful of the young guys. And they dropped, by the first half whistle, 3 on Belize. So they go on, and then in about the 60th minute, you have like massive subs, right, as a friendly does. And they bring on kind of your typical twos that you see as the twos are playing. And so, they ended up taking the game to a 5-1 result, which, I mean, again, it's a friendly. It's against a Belize team that is under a new coach for the past couple of years, and is really, really working on investing a lot of time into their national team, and not just their national team, not just soccer, but youth sports in general. Really, really cool story. I've got it over on the website. But I say all that to say, this gave the twos an opportunity to play somebody totally different than what they would typically be doing during an international break. During an international break, you run the risk of complacency. We've seen it over and over again. We always make the joke about the first team. They win right before an international break, and we're like, oh, hey, momentum. And then they come off the international break, and the momentum is gone. So the twos had this opportunity to maybe keep a little bit of their momentum alive. They've won 4 of their last 5, and they're in right now essentially what could be like a historic playoff run. Again, Jose Silva has put his stamp on this team in the best way possible. They are playing like really enjoyable soccer. It's really, really fun to watch. Right now, they are in 11th place in the East on 31 points, which is 2 points behind the 8th place Orlando, which is the lowest playoff spot. They're playing Carolina Core, who is also at 33 points this weekend. And so that's your definition of a 6-pointer, right? But it's away. They have a couple of away games before they come back home. But if you want something really, really entertaining to watch that like actually has legitimate meaning at this point in the Atlanta United season, go watch the twos because they're playing really, really fun football right now. And also they are on kind of a streak that could propel them up into a playoff spot. So, and yeah, as Dan said, they have a game in hand on most of the teams above them. So there, you're talking about there's a chance, Bruno. There's definitely a chance with the twos, much higher than the first team. So wanted to give that shout out because, I mean, they've got something special going on there, and it's nothing against Steve Cook. I know there was a lot of criticism when Steve was here that he didn't play a lot of these young guys as much as some people would prefer. But victory, the Belize team didn't play the best. But no, I would say maybe we're overstating the performance if and for everybody listening after the fact, he said the Belize team was very poor. Are you overstating the performance? No, because they've been playing so well against teams that they've actually struggled with before this international break. So the way that they're playing football, this was more about what they did individually and as a team than it is about the team that they were playing against not being that great. So we'll see. But it'll be entertaining here over the next couple of weeks to watch the twos.
Yeah, and I think with the second team, once you start, you don't really pay attention to it as much. And I admit I fall into this. I don't really watch a whole lot of the twos at the moment, but it's always good to see, okay, who are the guys that are coming up through the ranks? Who are the guys that will inevitably be the first team's future? Who will be the next, Luke Brennan's, the next Ephraim Morales's, the next, Caleb Wiley's and what have you. And understandably, some folks are a little, I don't want to say, I guess, apathetic, but I guess people seeing like, oh gosh, the team is just selling homegrowns and we're not keeping any of these guys that we're developing. But I this is actually part of what I talked about with Javier Perez a few weeks ago, and it's part of everything has a plan, and honestly, we got this insight also from a guest that we had, I believe it was either last week or a couple weeks ago on MLS Monday, or even on this show it might have been, but coming from a former player, you don't know what's going on. No one really knows what's going on in the club except the players, the coaches, the people that are actually on the inside that make the decisions. And you might look at something and think, well, that's a really dumb decision, but there's probably a very, very good reason for why they've done it. And as far as the twos, it's exciting to see some of these young players coming through. Chris Henderson has said that the second team is going to get younger in the next several years. And that's the idea, is for that to be the bridge between the academy and the first team for the players that are coming up, your future homegrown players. So we're going to see some exciting talent coming through this academy, this twos team. And hopefully you're going to see the quality improve as that process gets underway. Also with their IDP coach that they got, who comes from La Masia, right? As well as Javier Perez. Javier Perez also worked at La Masia for a while. So you have a really good connection, a really good track record there between two people who really know a thing or two about youth development. So it's something to keep an eye on.
And if I'm not mistaken too, Javier Perez, this was part of the group, as we'll get Calen here in one sec. This was part of the group, obviously, that Garth brought in to kind of revamp a lot of the front office. But I think Javier Perez actually helped write a lot of the training material for U.S. soccer.
He didn't help write it. He wrote U.S. soccer. He wrote a handbook for youth development. I have to find the actual title, but literally his name is on that book. So he knows a lot about this, and talking about him is an absolute joy. He's so knowledgeable about all this stuff, so passionate, and just a really great guy to talk to.
Yeah. You know who else is a really great guy to talk to? That was
Who?
a good segue. I like that. See, this
Perfect.
was good. Is Calen Carr. What's going on, buddy?
What's up? How you guys doing?
Good,
Great,
good. How
man.
you been?
Doing well, doing well. Yeah, always good to see you guys, and thanks for having me on the show.
Always, man. So I guess we'll dive into it. We're coming off an international break, and I guess before we really get into like the full on Atlanta, Columbus, and everything else MLS, is there anything else about the international break that just kind of stood out to you from? And it can be MLS, it can be just whatever teams that you cared to watch, just
Oh
any
man.
stories.
Well, yeah, it's been coming thick and fast. So I mean, I was still kind of digesting the Leagues Cup final. I still feel like I'm kind of like coming coming to terms with everything that took place in that match, and then with the Sounders, lifting the trophy, and then I'm now already looking ahead to the next matchup between those two clubs that play each other in MLS play coming up pretty soon. So there's some extra on top of that after the way that all ended. And then with the national team stuff, this game back in Columbus from the U.S. national team perspective was, I thought, positive to get back in a winning mood and with the performance, and so that felt good, just to kind of like honestly just grab anything positive out of the way that things have gone so far. And then now for me, I'm excited just to get back into the MLS swing of things, and like it's the final 5, 6, 7 matches depending on which club you support. And then this, for me, this is always like the best part as a player. I remember feeling like every game now, it is like really up for it, whether you're from a Columbus side trying to make the top 4 or even just stay in the playoffs. That's how sort of fragile it can be. And we saw what Atlanta United did, getting hot at the last second last year, and taking down Miami in that best of 3 is still one of my favorite memories of MLS playoff history. And
Me too.
And then, I think from now's perspective, it's a little bit more of like looking forward and guys fighting for jobs and seeing kind of where they stand in the pecking order and trying to make an impression for themselves.
Yeah, Calen, real quickly before we get into Atlanta United, because that was a perfect moment to segue, but you mentioned the Leagues Cup final, and that happened a little bit, it happened a couple weeks ago now, but I think it's still, a huge game. And like you said, that rematch is coming up in a week and a half now, or a week from today, actually, right?
Yeah, I think it's a week from Tuesday.
Week from yesterday.
Yesterday, so next Tuesday, yeah.
But it's a hugely important game for both of these teams, right? You have a Seattle side that's looking to kind of hold on to their top 4 spot, and Miami side that has 9 games remaining, and they're looking to surge through the standings. But what are you looking forward to in that game? Because I want to go ahead and ask you now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like anytime you lose a final, I just want to see what the response is from Miami. And from Seattle, I think there's a little bit, the confidence is already there. And I could feel it coming from them. I think playing in the Club World Cup the way they did and the performances they had, that's going to be that team I feel like was never going to be afraid of any situation. It's just kind of in the Sounders DNA of going to finals, fighting for trophies, being in the Club World Cup, being the first to win the Champions League. So they showed no fear going against Miami. I think that's the way you have to go if you want to survive and to beat a team like that. But they weren't afraid, and so they showed it. They got the result. I thought it was deserving. And then now I think with the extras after, with Suarez and the suspensions and all the drama, and for me that just, it was a shame to see from the standpoint of like, I was glad to see the suspensions be tacked on to move over into MLS play, even because I feel like that was the right thing to do. But at the same time, as like a neutral, it just made the next matchup even more spicy to see. I don't expect anything to cross the line in that sense, but there was already, when you play a final and then suddenly you generally have to wait to the next season to see that team again. And the fact that you get it in just a couple weeks later, for me, makes the game even more of something where you mentioned the individual on the line, but even from a neutral perspective, if I'm not even a fan of the Sounders, or I really care if Miami win the Supporter Shield again or not, just to see that matchup again, I think is intriguing.
Yeah, we have our MLS show that we do on Mondays, and to me, like, because of everything that happened in Leagues Cup, that one, it instantly becomes, if you're mildly interested in MLS at all, you have to go watch that one. It's must see at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it was like that the first time I saw that Atlanta played Miami this year too. And, we do so much, I think, in MLS to celebrate the rivalries. And I think that is all fair game and totally understandable. And anytime El Trafico pops up, or I've gotten to call a couple of Toronto, Montreal matches, it doesn't even matter for them, like whether they're both, near the bottom of the table. Each team wants to win those. But I remember also playing for Houston when we play Sporting Kansas City every year in the playoffs, and it felt like whoever was going to win that was going to go to MLS Cup. And they didn't like us, we didn't like them. So I think there can be these rivalries that pop up that are a little more fluid and natural than, right now this is the closest team to us and we hate them for XYZ reason because of that. That's all fair game. But I think this was a good example of something else kind of coming outside of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of how the Atlanta Miami one. I mean, it's not to that degree because there's been some really good matches over the short history between the two. But it's really hard to beat what happened in the playoffs last year. Like that,
Yeah.
that's because it's storybook, right? And it's take away Messi and all that. It's just where Miami was and where Atlanta was. You didn't expect it to happen. And now here we are. Unfortunately, that didn't carry over like we
Sure.
wanted it to. But Atlanta's taking on Columbus this weekend. These teams don't have boring games typically when they play each other. Last time they played in the Benz last year was a 2-0 win by Atlanta, which was weird because at that point Columbus was just running riot over everybody, and Atlanta was really on a downturn. They were struggling, and so I say all that to say it's never boring. What are your kind of first impressions of these two teams now coming off this international break?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Atlanta United have proven that. I just even think back to the Nashville match where I was watching that one back, and I was like, coming into this, Nashville's fighting for the Supporter Shield. I think they had the best home record in MLS. I think 10-1-3 at home or something like that. And you're like, well, this is going to be, Surridge is going for the Golden Boot. Maybe this is a game that he's going to feast. And you see how things shift. And now I think it's back-to-back clean sheets for Atlanta United. And, that hasn't happened. I don't even remember the last time that happened. So defensively being solid, the change in goal with Hibbert coming into the team. It's an interesting story as well. I saw the comments from Jesse Marsh about him and his talent and high ceiling with the Canada national team. So, it's not so simple of a proposition, I would say, for Columbus, where they're fighting for everything and Atlanta aren't. I just know from playing in MLS, it's never like that. It's never that simple. And Atlanta United, strange to say at this point, have a little bit of, when you keep a couple clean sheets, that just gives you confidence, where even as an attacking player, if we get a set piece, if I take my chance, it might hold up, which didn't feel like that was the case for so long this season. So I think it's a little bit more intriguing than maybe on paper, where you would expect Columbus to be the heavy favorites with so much at stake for them.
And we talked about Jaden Hibbert a little bit here, and he's just getting his first starts, right, with the first team, and it's kind of where you started to see a little bit of the attention on him as far as his potential and him getting called into this Canada camp. But I mean, he's just an example of one of the young players that has kind of started taking their chances this season. You have Luke Brennan as well, Matt Edwards, who up until his injury was almost, a regular piece in this team. Will Riley, several of these young players have been able to kind of step in as this season has kind of, the writing's kind of been on the wall, and they've been trying to try new things and try to spark this team. So just of these young players, kind of which one has caught your eye the most, and who do you think, I guess, has the best chance of holding on to their spot, so to speak, going into 2026?
I mean, Hibbert to me feels like the obvious choice, just based off like his place in a position in the team. To be determined what because I don't know if he's mentioned what his plans are, but I think either way, at some point there's going to have to be a change, and he has all the tools to be able to make that. I really like Edwards too. I remember watching him. I did a few Atlanta games pretty early on in the season, including the home opener, where it felt like everything was just heading ready to take off, and it seemed like it was all going that way. And I was like, oh man, I hope I get more Atlanta United matches, because they're going to be flying. And then it didn't quite work out that way. But I think you're right to point out the young players, and even especially when things don't go well, if you can be a young player and step in and take your chance, that's really important. It's funny you mentioned, we were talking about the Sounders before, but I just look at that team, and Chris Henderson and Garth Lagerwey were there. And so the way that they were able to really get those young players to come through, I remember, when Christian Roldan was one of the young guys that was breaking through into the team. Now it's Obed Vargas. Some of the other young guys that have really emerged through there and kind of taken their opportunities. And so you kind of need that to freshen up the team. And you can bring in the experience, you can bring in the big signings. That's always going to be a part of things, I think, for Atlanta. But I think that tapping into the talent, and look, over the years, there's been good players that have come through that have gone on and done big things even. So I think just kind of sticking to that formula, that's been one of the bright spots. But I would say Hibbert, and I've seen Brennan, he's had some nice little moments. He's got some good athleticism, speed, touch around the corners. But I like the position of Edwards, and I liked his mentality too. He seemed to me, just from the moments, especially where he was going up against Zaha, or just kind of being a little bit unafraid with a personality. That's what I saw from Obed Vargas, getting in the face of some of these guys on Inter Miami, and respectfully, but you can't be afraid of the moment. And I think for young players, that can be something that takes some time. And but I think for those guys, you can see that they're not afraid.
For sure. We've talked about the young guys a lot this season, because it seems like for months now, the call has been from everybody to just play the kids. And the summer transfer window came and went, and you saw Luke Brennan getting time. You saw, everybody that you and Henry just mentioned, and they're all showing well for themselves. But one thing that changed a lot in the summer was also the defense as a whole. You have Eni Mihai, who came in and has been said essentially by the club to be one of the new leaders. You have Juan Beracol, who hasn't really got as much time yet, but he's on a year-long loan. He's not getting as much time because Stian Gregerson has remained healthy and has played really well with Mihai. And then you have Steven Alzate kind of in front of them in that midfield pivot. With all of these guys coming in, some of the changes, and now the clean sheets coming, and hopefully, knock on wood, staying, what really stands out to you about some of these changes that have happened in the summer with these new players?
I guess the positive part is the positions that you mentioned. It's like players that are in the spine of your team.
Yeah.
So center back, 6, even Hibbert coming in and goal, the idea that you can build the spine of the team is really the strength. And I played often out wide on a team, so I'm not going to undervalue the play of wingers, especially when you look across the league and you see a Belanga, or you see, and I was not anywhere close to that, trust me. But it was the spine is so important. And I think if you're building the structure of a group, and also if you're building from a leadership perspective, like you mentioned, Mihai and him coming in and having a voice immediately in the team, that felt like from the outside and from things you hear, maybe some of the pieces that were missing for Atlanta United that didn't have that same continuity of guys that had stepped out. And Brad is such a leader, but it's harder when you're far back, right? And you're a goalkeeper, you're in a different part of training. There's a different way of holding guys accountable in sessions. And so I think that the fact that those additions are being made based off of not just the player profile from a technical and tactical standpoint, but from a personality standpoint, and then the positions that they play, that makes sense to me as far as building and then being able to add pieces.
And I think an important addition for them this summer window was, midfielder Steven Alzate, who, this club has been looking for a while. It's become a meme at this point, the Nagby replacement and all this kind of talk. And I mean, it's a very small sample size at the moment, but what he's played so far, it looks very positive. He looks like a guy that, can deal with pressure, a guy that is easy for this team to play through, kind of in a sense. I don't know. What have you seen from him, and do you think that he can be something close to what Darlington Nagbe was back in the day?
And still is.
I'm not gonna go that far, just because I know better. And it's not just Atlanta United. It's like if you go through the course of MLS history and you see teams with Darlington and without, even look at this Columbus team since he's been out injured recently. They've really struggled. And I was keeping close eye on this. It sounds like he's back in training this week or maybe available again to play. So, but yeah, I don't think I almost can't think of a player in MLS history that has those qualities that he brings. But I think the key is more, you mentioned it, some of it is like being solid, being someone you can play through, being able to trust your sixth position, being steady, being consistent, being reliable. Those are things that have been way too up and down, it felt like, in that spot. And it's been kind of a rotating cast of guys to come in and try to get, and maybe one guy has a good game and then the next one it's a mistake. And then you have a couple games in a row and then there's a change or an injury. So I think that's an important part. And look, from what I've seen so far, he looks clean on the ball. You saw I think like the trust to be standing over a set piece with Miranchuk and then having him be the decoy to run across it and serve it in, and then it ends up being a goal. Those are things that I think are positive indicators of like, okay, he's got some personality, he's building trust, and then I think the confidence of getting a result on the road, doing all the little things right, and then the icing on the cake is just getting a goal contribution in your first start. It's a pretty great start for him.
Are there any particular matchups in this Atlanta-Columbus game that you're kind of keeping an eye on, considering that you have folks still kind of working their way back from the international break?
I'm curious to see at least Atlanta on the counter. I think there'll be some openings, and there was also an injury with Sean Sawatsky going down for Columbus while on national team duty. He's been their most consistent center back this year, and being able to really defend where they keep the ball in possession a lot, and then even play through him. So there may be some opportunities, I think, for Atlanta in transition, which I think can be a strength. And then just also, I'm just interested to see the defensive structure, where I've seen Atlanta go on the road, and it's one thing to be a little bit more solid and compact, but there's also that urge at home. I felt it where you kind of want to open up a little bit more, and that can sometimes be a bit of a risk against a Columbus team, even though they are missing some pieces right now and not quite at their best self. They can really hurt you. So I'd be interested to see if Atlanta continue with more of the same defensive structure and look for their opportunities. And I think with Sawatsky's injury, that could be some openings, especially in behind for Atlanta.
We talk about some of these openings in behind and some of what Atlanta can do on the attack. I think I speak for a lot of people when seeing this Atlanta team spend so much in the offseason. It was a little bit of a surprise that this team didn't really produce up top. And I'm wondering, you were a forward in your playing career. What is it about maybe a player that's just coming into MLS maybe, or what is it about a forward that maybe, the shot conversion just isn't there? What are some of those difficulties that maybe you face? What can you tell us about that?
Well, look, I think there are some natural adjustments to coming to MLS, and we've seen this kind of across the league, where it took Hani Mukhtar a little bit to get going. It took Sam Surridge is a better version of himself than we saw in years past. I even look at a Prince Owusu in Montreal, who in his first year in Toronto, he was productive, but not quite the same level. And so I think for strikers, especially, there is a little bit of a learning curve of understanding how teams play here, what the style is. It's just in players in general coming to MLS, especially from abroad. And then I think, there's also a natural part of the expectations. And Atlanta United is different than most clubs in MLS, where there is pressure. There are 40,000 plus fans at matches. There's more media coverage. There are people voicing their displeasure. And so I think all that is a positive thing, number one, and why I love covering Atlanta United and going to matches. And my wife's family's from Atlanta, so every time I come into town, even in the off season, I get to go to like brew house or Fido's, and I'm watching matches, even, you know, abroad. And just the soccer culture is so strong in Atlanta, and it's part of what makes it so fun. But also the expectations are high, and that I think can be really difficult if you're expected to come in and solve everything. And I think a little bit of I guess some of the cracks got paved over a little bit, where I think Rob Valentino did an excellent job, and the group really rallied around him, and they had that spirit and that fight, but it didn't have maybe underneath the surface, there was more to be fixed. And it wasn't quite as a quick fix to say, okay, let's just add these two big name, high expensive pieces and everything is going to suddenly just go back to the glory days. So now it's a little bit more of okay, we're going to actually rebuild. We're going to pick these positions. We're going to go for maybe not only, you know, bring up the young players, taking a much more holistic approach, which can take longer, which is more frustrating. But I think is the one that's more sustainable. And I think that's what I remember Garth and Chris Henderson saying to begin with, is like, we're here to build something that's sustainable as a winner. That's what they did in Seattle. And I think ultimately, one, that's harder to do now in MLS. I'll be interested to see what happens with Miami in a couple of years. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm sure they're going to expect to just go and continue at the same pace they are. But Seattle is really the one place that I've seen that has consistently been able to be in it. This Columbus team has an argument for it. Actually, they're in and around it. But yeah, it's much harder now because of the international market, because MLS is a much bigger player in the global selling and buying players. So yeah, it's hard, but that's why I think you have to take it from every angle, where you have to also have the youth players. You can't just depend on the big stars, the big names, and you have to make the right choices because big misses can hurt, because they're hard to get rid of.
Yeah, Seattle is kind of the one beacon of hope that I think Atlanta fans can look at and say, like, the guys that made it work are now here. So at least you have that to hold on to. Like right now, it sucks. It really does as a fan, but it's not going to stay that way, hopefully. So
no. And I think also if I know everybody wants it to be just, winning all the time, but I also know a little bit about Atlanta sports culture, and it's not always just, winning everything. And
nope.
Sorry about that.
Falcons started playing this past Sunday. So,
did they? Okay.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, so I remember when the Warriors were horrible, and then we went through the dynasty. My Oakland A's, I don't even want to go there. That's just too painful of a story. And the Raiders have left like 6 times and gone, so there's no real NFL team for me. But yeah, no, I think the measure of like the fans sticking it through, it's still one of the best atmospheres. I'm going to try to make my way to the Gulch before the match if I can, to just take a peek at it, take the Marta into the match. And I think it's going to be a really intriguing game. I think with the way Atlanta have been looking these last 2 games, I think it's important to build towards the next season, and guys are going to want to prove something.
Yeah. That's one of the things Dyla kind of told me a couple of weeks ago when I talked to him after one of the matches, was this is an extended preseason at this point. So I know your time is super valuable, man. I want to get you rolling. I don't know that we'll actually see you unless we run into you after at the Benz this time, because we're actually doing a pre-match show right next door.
Oh, cool.
At the big glass hotel that's next to the Benz now. So when we won't be in the press box as early as normal. And I know you guys are running around like chickens with your heads cut off before matches. So if we don't see you, then have a great call. And when you get here during the off season, let us know. We'll go to the brew house.
Oh yeah.
Grab a beer.
I'm ready. Yeah. I always come right around Christmas. So the Boxing Day matches.
The Boxing Day matches are awesome.
Yeah. So let's plan on that. That'll be fun. I'll hold you to it.
Absolutely.
Cool.
First one's on me, I promise.
All right. We've got this on tape now. So there it goes.
Good, yeah.
Bring the receipts.
Love it. Well,
appreciate
thanks,
it, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Have a good one. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, buddy.
See you, Calen.
See ya.
All right.
Cool.
Calen Carr, y'all.
Awesome.
Always good to get
Gonna
that
bring this one
insight.
time. Huh?
Always good to get insight from
Yeah.
him and other voices around the league. And honestly, yeah, I mean, it's a crappy situation for Atlanta, but at this point, yeah, we're all kind of just looking at this as an extended preseason, aren't we? We're basically trying to get some of the new guys in, try out some of the younger guys, figure out what works going to the next season, see what work we have to do in the off season before 2026. But before that, we have this game and a little bit of housekeeping that I forgot to mention earlier and that I think has kind of gone under the radar. Bartosz Slisz will be suspended for this game due to yellow card accumulation, which probably means we're getting the Tristan Mayumba show. So I'm sorry, guys.
Using a prediction?
I didn't give a prediction at all. My prediction now is just 3-1 Columbus.
Wow.
Yeah, because here's the thing. If we had Slisz in the midfield, actually fine. I'll change it to 2-0 Columbus because I don't think Atlanta scores now. Look, Mayumba in as few words as I can say is a absolute liability in midfield. And he's been so for the past few games. In my column, he's been a faller like 4 weeks in a row. He's going to be one for this one that comes out. It's either going to come out tomorrow or Friday, but it will come out and he will be a faller because every time he's in a game, I just have zero confidence that the ball is going to progress. I have zero confidence that the team is going to be able to build up because it's easy to press him. It's so easy to press him every time he's going to receive the ball. Anytime he's on the ball, you kind of know what he's trying to do. He's always going to try to that extra take on, that extra moment. 6-3 Atlanta. No.
Henry's a big fan of 6-3 wins.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, but like with Mayumba again, it's just not good. And it's been the same thing for the past few weeks. And so even with Alzate starting next to him, which I'm assuming will be the case, considering he started the last game and his fitness is probably a little bit better at this point. Yeah, I just honestly don't see it because I think that's wherever Mayumba is going to be, if he's going to be more on the left side or more on the right side, you can bet that's the side that Columbus is going to be attacking down most because they know that they can expose that area of the field and they can use that to their advantage to then go in and attack Atlanta more directly. So this will be a big test for Jaden Hibbert. That's the good news. It'll be a test for him. And so he'll get his reps in and he'll be able to show what an amazing goalkeeper he is. But yeah, that's just kind of where I stand. I don't trust this team to play well with Tristan Mayumba in midfield.
I'll give you my prediction here in a minute and the rest of the Scarves and Spikes staff. And also I've got something on Tristan as well. But I said I was going to throw this out a couple times during the show. If you haven't already, go to our social media, Scarves in Spikes on X/Twitter and Scarves and Spikes everywhere else. Doing a giveaway for a couple of copies of EAFC. That's coming out in a couple weeks. So all the instructions are on the social media. Just go check it out. It's easy to access. Patreon members get extra entries into these giveaways that we do. So patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. Get you in the Discord and the watch alongs at minimum, but then we have other tiers with some more exclusive content and everything else. And let's see, the 2 hours before the show, 5:30. Dude, I'm tripping. You know what it is? Caveat real quick. I'm doing this juice cleanse today. All right. I've had nothing solid to eat all day. And I'm not thinking straight. I'm struggling.
What are you drinking?
Shout out to Arden's Garden.
Well, what is that you're drinking?
It's this juice cleanse from Arden's Garden.
What is inside it? What is it?
I have no idea, honestly. Dude, this is what happens when you get married. Your wife hands it to you and
no questions asked. You don't dare ask any questions.
Here it is. But no, 2 hours before the game, 2 hours before kickoff at 5:30 at the Nest on 4 bar inside the Signia Hotel, giant glass building next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. y'all come hang out with us. We'll be doing a live show, and it'll be about an hour. That's usually how we roll. Come get a drink, hang out with us, chat with us, and look, whether the team does well or not, we're going to have a good time before the match, and we'll be there covering the match itself. So when we do let folks on the mic, so y'all come up and we can try to get you guys a couple minutes, just like we're doing here, except you get on there and tell us what you think about the match. So, all right, back to Tristan Miyamba. Tristan Miyamba has, and it's I feel like I have to say this before. It's nothing against Tristan. I like Tristan. I think Tristan's a great dude. I really do. But he has struggled immensely. And I think it's more the consistency all season. And I'll go back to that Michael Parkhurst interview I had a couple months ago, where he kind of described that inconsistency that Tristan Miyamba brings as being like a coach killer. Because you have these moments where you're like, oh man, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's the Nagby replacement. And then it's enough to give you something to hold on to. And then he has like 3 or 4 howlers. And it's like, man, where did that other version go? This year, and I'm going to jump over to our good friends at FOTMob. 7 is good, right? I think 7 is right there above average.
Yeah.
Ish. Tristan Miyamba hasn't had a rating on FOTMob above a 7 since July 30th when they played Necaxa, which Leagues Cup, that was kind of a, whatever game. Before that, it was the Charlotte loss where they lost 3-2, but he had a goal. He had a 7.5 on that one. Before that, we are going back, let's see. Out of the 10 prior to that, he only had 3 that were above a 7. Most of them hovering around the low 6s. Now, stats are one thing. I say this all the time. I'm an eye test guy, not a stats guy. But me and you in the press box talk about it all the time. Tristan is unfortunately good for 2 or 3 extremely confusing passes or just kind of blanked moments in a match. And it's usually in a very dangerous spot. It usually is not good. So, if you can get the really good version of Tristan and he can pair well with Alzate, then man, you've got something going here. But he's such a wild card so much. You just never know what you're going to get. Box of chocolates, man. And I'm a little concerned. I really am. And the thing is, too, Slish he's paired really well with Alzate. It's not even just the fact that it's Miyamba. I think Slish has just been so good and so consistent that even if Alzate weren't a factor, then you would already be missing a lot here. And Brett said, now that we talked about him, Miyamba's about to drop the best game of his career. Let's go. Whatever.
Yeah, that happens. Sure. I mean, I'd love to see him ball out, just to see some players on this team show signs of life. Because I think it's also part of that little motif of, players wanting it and players having that X dog in them. And I think if you see a player that it's just like downward consistently, you're kind of like, maybe this person doesn't really have a whole lot left to offer. This person doesn't have a whole lot left. Maybe a change is going to be better for them. Players that sometimes, maybe they haven't been great. And then they have these games where they're like, okay, we're starting to see some stuff from them, right? Like Moranchuk, for example, when he started just scoring goals every single game for a few games, that was good to see. And kind of some of the stuff beyond that, you saw that he was really trying to fight his way back and to show that fight back in a sense. And that's good to see. You want to see that. But yeah, I mean, I think I want to see fight back from Miyamba. I want to see that from him and from other players as well. I just want to see the players kind of care a little bit more, and I want to see more, because especially at home, the fans deserve more given what has happened this season. So yeah, that's the thing. And if not, like, what's your opportunity cost here? It's playing a homegrown like Will Riley, right? Where you could give him some minutes and experiment with him and see what he gives you, which I think this season, Will Riley has given you something that's a little bit better than what Tristan Mayumba has given you. And he hasn't had like banger games either, but he's been reliable at times.
But he's got the X dog you talked about.
Exactly. And that's the difference sometimes is it when you have the X dog, even if you're like average or even bad with X dog, it's passable. It's when you're like average and don't have as much motivation, you don't have that X dog, it takes you down a level. So yeah, I just want to see something, especially in the midfield, because the midfield is so important, and especially against a team like Columbus that likes their possession, that has some very, very dangerous players. Um, it's going to be important to control this game and to be able to kind of hold your bearings in the midfield. And I just don't think that they do that with this version of Tristan Mayumba.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. And I would actually like to see Will Riley get the start because, again, we've said it over and over again, extended preseason. You need to really get a lot of these guys. And I know Tommy says it a lot too, but the guys that you know in some way, shape, or form are going to be here next year, most likely. Nothing's guaranteed. But you need to give them time. You need to give them as many minutes. And Columbus is a great test. This is a great litmus test to kind of see, is it going to reflect your team next year? No, but it gives you a really good idea of how some of these players will be here next year are going to handle pressure against one of the best teams in the league. Whether they're playing like it right now is irrelevant. Columbus can still beat anybody on the day, no matter what. So, yeah, I want to see, again, more of the young guys play. I think this is a really good opportunity. And unfortunately, yeah, you kind of know what you're going to get out of a lot of these guys that have been here for a minute. And now it's time to kind of move over and let the young guys have more meaningful minutes. So we'll see. And your prediction, you said 2-0?
Yeah, I changed it to 2-0 just because I don't think that Atlanta scores.
Okay. Tommy said 1-0 Atlanta. Gray, 2-1 Columbus. I said 1-1. And then Jackson said 1-0 Columbus. You heard it here first. So, I mean, man, I remember when I was like the super positive one. And I would never pick for Atlanta to lose or draw. I'm trying to be realistic. I don't think, look, if they could keep another clean sheet against Columbus, even if it's a 0-0 draw, that would be amazing, actually. Because at the end of the day, like, the playoffs are what they are, and they're not.
Wise words.
Yeah. So 0-0, you keep a clean sheet against Columbus, man, that's actually a positive. It really is. But it's going to be hard to keep them out of the net, and I do think Atlanta does find ways to play up to the level of their competition, so I think they snag one as well. I think it ends up being a 1-1.
Cool. I think a clean sheet would be massive, especially for Jaden Hibbert's confidence. He's the guy that we're kind of assuming at this point will be the number one going in the next season. The club has said that they're looking for a number one, but honestly, I think we can all see that they don't really need to look much further.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be a huge boost of confidence to Jaden. It'd be another feather in his cap that keep managing to keep a clean sheet against another big team in MLS. So hopefully that happens and we get to see more of him kind of growing, him being that class that this team needs to take over the number one spot.
For sure. All right, so we chatted a lot with Calen when he was here. Cover the twos. Y'all definitely need to go check out the twos because they are kicking off this weekend against Calen Carr in a true like playoff race. Got a game in hand, 2 points out of the playoffs, and this is against a team that is 2 points above them. So it's a big one. Talked about the academy, covered all the international break stuff and what all the Atlanta players did during it. I do believe also, I don't know that it's come out yet, but I think there's a another Rooted in the Stripes on its way here, either now or very soon.
I think it just dropped.
It always drops in the middle of our show.
Yeah, it's perfect timing too.
So y'all go check that out. But definitely come hang out with us on Saturday, 5:30 at the Nest on 4 bar inside the Signia Hotel. Signia by Hilton, Atlanta, the official name. Next door to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So kicking that off at 5:30. And then if you haven't yet, go enter our giveaway, which is over on our social media. And I am realizing now, for some reason, that it was not pinned. So I will pin it. So if you give me about 2 minutes, then you will have at the top of our X/Twitter profile the instructions to possibly win a copy of EAFC, which comes out in a couple of weeks. Got anything?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. By the way, some of the EAFC ratings are already out. Guess who the top 3 rated players are for Atlanta United?
Miggy.
He's 2.
Man, I'm fighting between what common sense should say and what I think EAFC's done. Gregerson.
No, so Gregerson's actually number 9.
Okay. Moranchuk.
Moranchuk is the number 1 rated
Wow.
at 78 overall.
Okay. Who's the third?
Saba at 74.
Okay.
Miggy is at 76.
Okay.
Latte Lat's at 73. Brooks London's on 70 somehow. What else? Oh, here's a fun one. Luke Brennan is 59 rated. When I told him this at the training ground, he was understandably not happy.
I mean, just I don't blame him for being a little pissed.
Yeah, clearly the folks that make this game at EA Sports or EA, what do you call it? EA Entertainment, whatever. They don't really watch MLS, do they? They don't know ball, so
no, don't know ball at all. But they'll learn. They'll
learn at some point. Luke
By
Brennan
next comes around to be a solid 65.
Heck yeah, Luke Brennan, go and score go score a goal a game for the rest of this season, and you will show those EA coders what idiots they are. What fools they are.
Yeah. All right. That wraps it up for us.
Yeah.
Work. Things are not working.
You're not saying anything.
Whatever. See, and then we have this happen where it's like, hey, you're muted temporarily while the music comes on. You know what? Screw this. Screw this.
That's hilarious. For those of you that are like listening to this on podcast, it literally just showed my screen was Tyler like silently like fighting with his computer.
Over and over again.
Yep. That's life.
All right. The contest is now pinned. So if you haven't done it already, go check out the profile.
And come check out our live show on Saturday. We want to see all y'all in the Signia, the Nest on 4, for some cool soccer talk and some good food. Hope you're not on a cleanse then.
Oh, no. No, that's going to be my cheat day.
Smart.
Yes. All righty.